Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Game Over Toronto. Little tougher tonight than it has been for the last couple of games. We had a nice run. We had a nice run of 3 in a row, but it comes to an end with a tough 4-1 loss to the New York Rangers for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Not a bad game. Not a bad game. I think we can all agree it was not a bad game, but a frustrating one for Leafs fans, and we will get into all the reasons why, but also the reasons for hope that I think we can take into Monday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. First, though, introductions in case you're new to the show. My name is Dominic Jones. With me, we got Lauren Williamson.
What's up, everybody?
Back and alive after after missing Wednesday show. Oh, oof. Holding up all the meds.
That's right. That's right.
And
with my most important assistant.
And we've got the full set, all hosts on deck for this one. Zach Payne also with us. Zach, welcome back, bud.
Howdy, I'm back in my normal setup, so I'm not on the scuffed microphone audio.
Yeah, everyone is back. Everyone is back where they're supposed to be, and just in time for a 4-1 loss to the Rangers. Admittedly, 2 of those goals coming on the empty net, so really more of a 2-1 loss. But let's start just with some initial reaction to the game, what our biggest takeaways were from it. Lauren, why don't you start us off? Biggest takeaway from this this interesting game we just watched.
I'm just glad no one is actually hurt. With Chris Tanev leaving the end of the second period with what looked like a very bad puck to the right knee, and then at the end of halfway through the third period with Anthony Stolarz getting a jab of a stick up the left leg pad. More than one near panic attack happened tonight, and I'm just glad that both players were able to finish the game. That is my biggest thing. That is the thing I am most happy about, is that no one is actually injured, because there's not a whole lot else other than that in this game that I super loved. Yeah, I don't know about you guys. Zach, what about you, buddy?
This is a weird one. I know that there's kind of a discourse online right now as to whether or not the Leafs got goalied. I don't really think that they did. Like, obviously, Shesterkin played great, and he made some great saves when he needed to, but this just felt like one of those games where the Leafs were just a little out of sync. You know, you have a couple of great chances, miss the net on Nylander breakaway. Nyes had a great chance from the slot. And things just seemed to be just not quite there for the Leafs tonight. So they had stretches of good play, and there was some improvement on the zone entries on the power play, which I was very encouraged by. But on the whole, just not their most cohesive effort.
Yeah, I think I'll be a little bit more optimistic on this one. I think there's a lot of good to take away from this. They felt like they were in the game the whole time, and at times they felt like they were the better team. I will stick with the they were getting goalied argument tonight, because I do think that Shesterkin really came up big in a couple of places where a lesser goalie would not be able to do it. And there have been times when the Leafs have gone into games, they take a bajillion shots, but none of the shots are any good. Shesterkin did the windmill glove stave thingy 2 or 3 times in this game and came up with the puck each and every time. He stopped big chances. So yes, the Leafs missed out on a lot of opportunities, but I don't think this is an all hope is lost situation. I do think that they just ran into arguably the best goalie in the world in this game, who was on his top game, and that's kind of where I feel. But let's dig in, Zach. Let's dig in a little bit with you. You were saying, they felt a little bit disjointed. Let's dive a little deeper into that. Where were you seeing the Leafs missing these opportunities?
So it's really I want to focus on the middle six with this conversation, because the top line looked very good tonight. Austin Matthews looked like his normal dominant self. Mitch Marner had a number of good moments, and Matthew Nyes, while I thought he had a rough first period, really bounced back in the second half of the game. But first of all, I feel I have to retract some positive statements I made on Wednesday regarding Max Domi. Man, every time I want to cheer for this guy, he does something that makes me scream at my TV. And the fact that he passed up in empty net to try to force a pass back on a 3-on-1 made me want to rip my hair out. John Tavares, brutal game for Tavares. Holmberg didn't have a good game. Nick Robertson, I'm not sure he exists right now. He had a great preseason. Where has he been? I don't know if you guys have noticed him in a positive way at all this season, but that third line right now, I would not be shocked to see Pacioretty come back in for one of Robertson or Holmberg on when they play Monday. It was just not a good game from the middle six, and it was just simple things like passes, just skipping over sticks, or like miscommunications. Like Nylander had a few where he just whipped a pass like right past the defense and all the way back to the Leaf zone. At the end of the game, the first empty netter to seal it for the Rangers, Nylander tries to feather it into Tavares, and it just they miss on the play on a simple play, and it goes the other way, and it's a goal. Like, it's just simple plays like that where the Leafs could have sustained pressure and they weren't really able to. I don't know. Did you guys have anything positive to say about the middle six aside from Bobby McMahon, maybe?
I mean, I've always got positive things to say about Bobby McMahon. I do agree with you about Max Domi. Like, he wasted some opportunities in this one. But I will say after that 3-on-1 where he went for the pass instead of the shot or the obvious shot, it did feel like all of a sudden somebody on the bench said to him, shoot the puck every time you get it, because he started shooting like mad, and he had a couple of opportunities that sort of came back from that. I still feel like that line is worth sticking with, Domi, Nylander, McMahon. I think there's still something there. I think we see it in flashes. I think it's worth investing some more time in, especially at the beginning of the season. But I feel where you're coming from on Max, because he had been playing so well, and he came up he fell back into some old habits that we don't love to see. He also took a really dumb penalty. That cross-checking penalty he took was completely unnecessary. I get what you're doing. You're standing up for your goalie, but you'd gotten away with one already, and then you're going to allow basically, put your team at the disadvantage because you wanted the extra shot on Jacob Trouba. Lauren, where do you stand on Max Domi and the second line in general?
I like the second line better than the third line. That's kind of the nicest thing that I can say. It's one of those things where the more I see the Domi, McMahon, Nylander line, the less I'm enjoying it, unfortunately. I think that Domi's really good. He's obviously an excellent playmaker, but there were so many moments tonight where the puck was overpassed, and that whole line, because the only one of those three people that really is going to always take a shot is Bobby McMahon. William Nylander obviously will take shots lots, but the more that line plays, the less I trust it. And there were so many turnovers from that line tonight that led to opportunities going the other way. And even though the Rangers, were held to 2 goals for basically the last, the first 58 minutes of the game, the more it went on, the less I wanted to see it. And I totally agree with you. I would not be surprised if on the third line, one of those guys has swapped out for Pacioretty. He's been out for a couple games now. I think he's probably dying to get back in. And I agree that Nick Robertson has also kind of vanished. He had a couple really good opportunities that he just totally whiffed on. In the first 10 minutes of the game, he missed this gift rebound that was just sitting right in the slot, and he completely miffed on it. And if that goes in, maybe we're talking about the middle six a little bit differently, but that I also don't just love the Holmberg, Tavares, Nick Robertson line in general. They feel so disjointed. Like the second line of McMahon, Domi, and Willie, while it's not good defensively, there's obvious chemistry there, which is a good thing. But it just feels like there's no chemistry with Holmberg, Nick Robertson, and JT. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I agree. In large part, just I think what the Leafs had at the start of the season when they had Pacioretty playing with Robertson, even though it didn't, Pacioretty obviously scored the first Leafs goal of the year, and Robertson, looked okay. And I think that's a combination that, while it hasn't exactly prospered, it can work to some degree. And in a game where, on the season so far, the Leafs' third line has consistently been their worst. The fourth line has outplayed them in pretty much every game. There was 3 minutes left in this game, and Craig Berube put out the fourth line over the third line because they're useless right now. There needs to be some sort of it's just a bunch of guys going out. And this is a conversation we had in a much different context over the years when Austin Matthews and William Nylander would play together, where it's like, okay, they're both playing, but they're not really playing together. They're just kind of both going out there doing their thing. I'm kind of seeing similar things with the third line, except they're not the caliber of player that those two are, so nothing happens. It's the old David Kampf, Ilya Mikheyev, Pierre Engvall, where it's, yeah, they're there. Yeah, like it is absolute zero. Like there's nothing happening. Plays are dying on their sticks too often. There's not any like consistent driving force to the net. It just looks disjointed. I don't know what kind of personnel. I do like the idea of having Tavares be the third line center. I just don't know if these are the wingers for him. I don't know. What do you think, Dominic?
Yeah, that's the issue there. I think is in the past you're talking about the David Kampf, Mikheyev lines. Like those lines, you're not expecting big things from any of those players. You know, Mikheyev, you hope maybe gets you 15 goals. Kampf is just there to shut things down in the defensive zone. You're not expecting big things from them. This iteration of the third line, you're wasting John Tavares. He is still an elite talent. Yes, he has declined in his later seasons. You know, he's not the player he was at the start of this contract when the Leafs signed him, but he's still somebody who can, you know, can still deliver, can still execute, can still be a big part of a winning team. And right now you're looking at just players who are just there with him, and you're not utilizing his skills to the best of their abilities. You're not utilizing the other players' skills to the best of their abilities. And you know, somebody who hasn't been talked a ton about at the start of the season, who's hurt right now, which is Kalle Järnkrok. And I feel like we're almost waiting now for Järnkrok to come back to see what if he can maybe inject some of the life into that third line. And I you know, Nick Robertson, I'm rooting for this kid. I want to see him succeed. I'm wondering if we're looking before long at a veteran third line of Tavares, Järnkrok, and Pacioretty, and trying to see something more like that, something that's a little bit more stable, a little bit more reliable. Because for as much talent as Nick has, and he has a ton of talent, he has been unreliable. He doesn't score as consistently as you want him to. He hasn't scored yet this season, and he doesn't have the defensive prowess that you kind of need from a third line, which I think Pacioretty can deliver, and Järnkrok certainly can deliver. And put those guys with Tavares, and maybe you have something a little bit more
competitive,
a little bit more, useful as opposed to what we've got right now. They did bump Steven Lorentz up onto the third line for a little while there. Lorentz, I feel like he had a pretty good game, pretty solid game in this one. That fourth line of Reeves, Lorentz, and Kampf was pretty effective through points of this game, and then Lorentz gets the promotion. What did we think of Steven Lorentz, Lauren? I'll throw to you on that.
Oh, he's very quickly becoming a player that I love. There was a couple of really good opportunities. That fourth line has been maybe the best that we've seen it, I don't know, in the last 4 seasons. In terms of character, in terms of, like you said, reliability. In seasons past, when Keefe would put the fourth line out, you know, at the end of a game when they're losing, you want to pull your hair out. But when Berube does it and it's this line, it makes sense because they do play very hard. That whole line was playing really, really hard tonight. There were some really good opportunities and extended ozone time that led directly from the fourth line getting a really good opportunity, putting the puck in deep and keeping it in there and getting the big boys on the lines out on the ice right after that. Revo was laying the body. He must have laid like 8 hits before the first half of the first period was up. I love Steven Lorentz a lot. I think he plays with so much. He doesn't have as much, let's say, truculence as Matthew Nyes, but he's really able to push the puck in deep and go after it, be the first to it, and create a really good opportunity. I mean, Ryan Reeves is not somebody that you're even going to ask for 10 goals from him in a season, but that line had a couple good, really good opportunities, and I think Lorentz is a part of that. And I loved that he got promotion. I think he's earned it so far with his play through the beginning of the season. He's been like one of my favorite additions so far. Obviously, the big guys in the summer was great, but in terms of like, you know, people we didn't know if they were going to make the team, Steven Lorentz has been my favorite by far. So I like that he got that promotion. I think that there's enough stagnance happening in the bottom 6 now where you can start trying to change things around. But the fourth line has been so good. Do you want to mess it up too? right? So it'll be interesting to see when Yarncrook comes back who he does like go in for. I like your idea of having like the more veteran line of Patches, JT, and Yarncrook. I just again is that I mean, let's be real. Yarncrook is more likely to put it on net, and Pacioretty and Tavares are nothing but dumpster eaters in terms of picking up goals in front of the net. So I think that maybe that's what the third line needs to get going. But I don't hate Lorentz on that line no matter what. I think if something really bad happens, I could see him getting an opportunity higher up in the line. That's obviously not where his, the best thing would be for him. But, in a one game situation, I wouldn't hate it. What do you think, Zach?
Well, first of all, I just saw this and I think it's really funny, so I want to mention it. What do you guys like? If you had to guess, what do you think Steven Lorentz's expected goals for at like percentage at 5-on-5 was?
Oh.
Just guess. Throw out a
70%. I don't know.
80. Let's go even higher.
Yeah, you're bringing it up, so obviously it's a big stat.
94.
4%.
Oh.
Oh.
So this is
maybe
my
not.
thing with analytics is analytics are a good tool, right? They're a good complement to the eye test. And for me, I use that as a litmus test to see if my eyes were being honest. And when I see that the fourth line was all under 40% tonight, I think it was due to a couple of the shifts against the Rangers top line where they got caved in for 30-40 seconds, which, like with 3 minutes left, they get thrown out with the third pair and fourth line against Panarin. That's not going to go well.
No.
But that kind of makes me like that challenges your perspective, right? Where maybe they were good at times, but you don't really notice them as much when they're in their own zone, right? We love when they're in the offensive zone, hitting everyone. Reeves and Lorentz are in on the forecheck, but you don't really notice when they're in the D zone because, well, they don't have the puck. You're not really paying attention to that. So I think it's important to just contextualize that they do good things, but I think they have to be a collective, right? That's the fourth line, right? We're not expecting them to be world beaters. I don't necessarily want to see Steven Lorentz elevated, to be honest. I think when Calle Yarncroke comes back, he will take Pontus Holmberg's spot because Calle Yarncroke is everything that we've been waiting Pontus Holmberg to turn into, and he's not there yet. So just put Calle Yarncroke there, the guy who, despite everyone trying to run him out of town for no reason, is a 20-goal scorer and is a good forechecker and a good penalty killer. It's the reinforcements, like they'll figure it out. Again, it's a long season, it's a long experiment, but yeah, there's a lot that has to change on that third line.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Pontus Holmberg. I've wanted to see him succeed, but he hasn't. He never finds his spot. He's always kind of bouncing around. He is kind of a sort of in baseball. You'd think about him as like a utility player. You wouldn't want him as your everyday shortstop, but in a pinch you can put him in there. And I think that's sort of who he is. And that's we're gonna kind of have to learn to live with that. And he might wind up. I don't know how easy it would be to send him down to the Marlies, but he might be one of those guys that kind of bounces back and forth between Coca-Cola Coliseum and Scotiabank Arena. I think that might be where we're at with this player. Much as I do like elements of his game, and as a fan, I'm just sort of rooting for him because he seems like a nice, interesting guy. So I would like to see better from Pontus, but I feel like his time in the spotlight may be coming to an end, at least with this team. Let's talk a little bit about the captain here. He's our sole goal scorer for the Leafs. Had several opportunities. Zach, how did you feel about Austin Matthews' game in this one?
He looked like Austin Matthews, the Rocket Richard winner, right? Like he had a ton of good scoring chances. I'll dive a little bit into the specific, like his goal in a bit, but just like from what we saw in this game, he was using his frame. He was getting to the net. He was getting to the dangerous areas. He was ripping the puck with like absolute relentless pressure. There was one play where they highlighted it on the broadcast where he gets a shot attempt off a set play on a faceoff where he just kind of gets lost, which is something he's very good at after years of playing with Mitch Marner, right? And he gets a good shot, hits Shesterkin in the chest, and not a motion is wasted, and he immediately like fires another shot off that Shesterkin has to sprawl out to save. Like, it's relentless with this guy. And this is why he's been the best goal scorer in the league for the last number of years, because he shoots from everywhere, except he can actually score from everywhere. He's not like other guys in the league where they just throw the puck on net. He's not even like the rest of the Leafs team, who this season have been a lot more willing to just throw the puck on from everywhere. He shoots from everywhere, but he can score from everywhere. I remember last year we had that whole stretch of games where he was just doing weird spinoramas in the corner and they were going in. There's never a dull moment, because you never know when he's just gonna fire a shot that surprises the goalie and goes 5-hole or top shelf or wherever, because he's the best goal. He's just the best. Like, I don't know, Lauren, did you see it any different?
No, man, like, I think you hit it on the nose. Jonas Siegel just tweeted out a couple minutes ago, Austin Matthews and William Nylander combined for 17 shots on 26 attempts tonight. So it was definitely a fire range on Shesterkin. They had no puck luck tonight, right? Like, how that one Willie Nylander shot that goes a little bit 5-hole, and then he hits the back of Shesterkin's skate and, like, just glides outside the post. I don't know how many chances there were tonight where Shesterkin was on his belly and the team just couldn't find an extra, like, 6 inches to put it up and above him. But it really felt like it was a close game right up until the very end, and Matthews was probably the biggest proponent of that for sure. I mean, he's only got 2 goals on the season now, but there in another universe, he has as many goals as Cole Caulfield, because he is, like you said, Zach, he is able to put it in from anywhere, and he's had so many great opportunities. That first game, how many posts did he hit? Like 4? He hit 3 posts and a crossbar, right? And it seems to continue to go like that for him so far. But a couple of years ago, this happened at the beginning of the season. He was a little bit snake bit at the beginning, and he still ended up with like 56 goals. So, it's always a little bit of a concern, just because, that's what we do, is over concern ourselves. But the reality is he's still Austin Matthews, and tonight he's looked as good as he can. And when you go up against a team like the Rangers that do a really good job of clogging up right in front of the net, it's harder to make those shots, even for somebody like Austin Matthews. What do you think, Dom?
Yeah, I mean, we saw in this game why they wanted to make him captain, why they did make him captain. Yeah. He showed up and he did everything in his power to try and tie this one up, try and put the Leafs in a position where they could actually win it. He's the one person that beat Shesterkin, and he could have scored 2 or 3 more if he weren't going up against the best in the world on one of his best nights. And I think that's, there's many different forms of leadership, right? And I think that's a form of leadership where he was leading by example. He's like, I'm gonna keep at it, keep firing pucks on net, keep trying to get through. And although he wasn't able to do it, that's the sort of attitude that you need. You can't be giving up. I believe a wise man once said, "Just effing shoot it, bro," and that's what he did tonight. So I think good things from the captain.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight the goal specifically, because it's going to go under the radar just how many good things Austin Matthews did on this play. So if you go back and look at it, the puck's going behind the net. Matthews has a step on Adam Fox. Adam Fox, perennial Norris Trophy candidate, right? We agree. Very good defenseman. Yep. Not the biggest guy in the world, though. And Matthews knows that. He's a lot bigger than Adam Fox. So as he's going to the boards, he gets the puck and he just does a quick dart back the other way, quick change of direction. And it's akin to, if there's any MMA fans out there, like when a wrestler uses his leverage to trip a guy to get a takedown. Matthews is such an elite understanding of his leverage and how to use it that quick movement makes Fox stumble. And that's the half a step Matthews needs to take it to the front of the net. And, Nyes is doing a great job wrecking havoc in front too. And Shesterkin, he just isn't able to extend out quick enough as Matthews gets to the far post on a wraparound, which has quietly become like a weird new wraparound where Matthews likes to attack the far post instead of the near post, because the goalie, they're going to race over to the near post, but they are going to overcommit to it and the far post is going to be open. It's such an elite understanding of body position and leverage and how to exploit it that I think, players around the league recognize whenever media outlets quiz them on like, oh, what makes Austin Matthews so special? But the fans don't really pick up on it, on just how incredible this guy is at protecting the puck and using his frame to his advantage. Because, he's not laying big hits every night, but he does use it a lot more than you think.
Oh yeah.
Well, and he uses the size of his stick too, right? Like, I mean, the puck is what, this big, and there's this much white space. Like, what an unbelievably stupidly talented shot that was. Like, how many players in the league can make that? It can actually, like you said, pull it out from behind the net, get in front, and get it to the far post with that much crowd in front of them. There's got to be what, like a handful, right? At most. And
It might just be him and McDavid.
yeah, it's a very, very, very short list in all 800 players in the league. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy that we've had him on our team for so long that when we see things like that, we're like, oh, that's just Austin Matthews. And instead we get worked up about a goalie that's like above average goaltending. We're like, this is the game changer, not our 69 goal scorer. But yeah, like you said, moments like that are just the holy shit reminders.
Yeah, we get used to it. We get used to how good this guy is that we almost don't appreciate him at times.
Yeah.
Let's move into our second period here, and as we do, we'll of course remind you to make sure you're subscribing to Game Over. Subscribe to all the Game Overs on YouTube and podcast feeds. That way you'll never miss an episode. So, follow us on social media. Give us a like on Facebook. Make sure your uncle and your grandpa know we're over there too. And if you're enjoying what's going on with Game Over and you want to support us in other ways, you can do so on Patreon, as well as if you're in Quebec on La Ruche. So join us that way. And if you're listening live and you want us to address certain things in the overtime period, do throw in some questions into our live chat here. Now, the second period this season has largely been the power play and goaltending period, the segment that we spend on that, and I feel like today will be no different. That is where we will spend a decent amount of time here in the second. Let's start with goaltending. Obviously, Anthony Stolarz continues to, be the guy that we're relying on while Joseph Woll is out. We talked a lot about this game being a big test for the whole team, after having, a relatively easier start to the season in terms of opponents. Here we go up against the President's Trophy winners from last year. How do we feel Stolarz handled himself up against, some really elite talent that we see on the New York Rangers?
You can take it, Lauren. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll talk. That's fine. It seemed like tonight Stolarz was fighting rebounds more than I've seen him in any other game for us so far. Do we agree on that? Yeah. There were a lot of juicy rebounds that he gave up tonight that in games previous he might have given up a couple, but tonight it was like one juicy rebound after another, and that's how the first goal gets scored, right? There's an unbelievable save that he makes, and then a tough rebound with crowd in front and Alexis Lafreniere, who continues to improve and become the player that we all expected him to be when he was drafted. He buries it, and when you have a goal scorer like that, he's gonna take those opportunities, and he gets a top cheddar. And it was a tough way to start the game considering how strong the Leafs played in the first 10 minutes of the game. They really had so much control in the first 10 minutes, and then as soon as Lafreniere scored, it really felt like the momentum swung completely in the other direction, and they really got hemmed in and caved in the second half of the first period. Even the second goal, the backdoor Chris Kreider goal, that's not I wouldn't say that that's his fault. That's a really tough save to make, even when you're as big as Stoli is. It was a tough read, right? And when you have a power play that's as good as New York's, it's hard to not let them get one, even though that happened right before the power play. It's a tough play to recover from. And I don't blame either of those goals on him. It was a tough night. And I know at the beginning of the season, he talked about when they were asking him about, how his summer was, he actually spoke about the fact that he changed his pads, like his equipment over the summer, after speaking to Bobrovsky and spending so much time in Florida with him, to a stiffer pad that unfortunately does give up a couple more rebounds in terms of quality because, a harder pad, you're going to kick it out farther. And I wonder if that sort of impacted the rebounds tonight. But again, that's just speculating. But tonight he seemed to be fighting the rebounds more than anything else. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, you know what? And that's interesting, the stuff about the pads, because I definitely noticed it with the low shot specifically. It just seems like the puck was firing off his legs when he was kicking them out. And, I don't really place either goal on him specifically. There's someone else at fault that I'm going to bring up later. But on the whole, I thought he was good. And, he's been very good this season. And we've been kind of spoiled to an extent. And I think everyone in Leafs Nation kind of had that uh-oh moment when it looked like he might be down with an injury, because we were suddenly faced with the prospect of a Dennis Hildeby and Matt Murray tandem. And for as much as I love Dennis Hildeby, I don't want to subject anyone to that, especially since there are young viewers that watch the Leafs.
I don't know. Maybe you go right. Maybe you pass over Murray. You go right to Artur Akhtomov. He's 2-0 with the Marlies. 2-0 with the Marlies. I'm just saying. I saw
Elite.
So like a 947 or something too, right?
Oh, I saw his. I was at his first game at Coca-Cola, and he looked pretty good. And he was loving life after that game. He was like celebrating as if he had, just single-handedly carried them to the playoffs when it was game 2 of the AHL season. But love that for him. Yeah, that moment of panic when Stolarz went down, and like to the point where they stopped the play. I'm very curious. I'm sure we'll hear relatively soon from the coaching staff like what happened there, what exactly caused him to be so worried. But there was a moment where there's the close up on Dennis Hildeby, and you're thinking, boy, this could go south really, really quickly. Not that Hildeby doesn't have great potential, not that he wasn't good this year in his first game. Just you don't want to be 2 goalies down less than 6 games into the season. But yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying, Lauren, that the rebound control seemed to be a little bit off. That first goal was definitely a result of less than perfect rebound control. And there were a few other times he seemed to be fighting the puck, but he fought the puck and won more times than not. And again, the score is 4-1. That sounds awful. There were 2 empty netters. It was really a 2-1 game. He kept them in it when he needed to. As much as you would have liked him to have the 2 that went in, 2 goals on whatever there was 27, 28 shots. Hard to complain about that. That's quality goaltending. A team that is as good as the Leafs should be able to overcome that more nights than not. And again, the concern is more where they weren't able to overcome that with the offense. Now, Zach, I'm curious to know, you just said you were going to blame somebody else for the goals. I need to know who that is.
Well, I think it's time I have an awkward question for you guys.
Ooh.
Has Morgan Riley been one of the Leafs' 4 best defenders this season?
He's been the only one with a goal.
Yeah. I think he has, but I think you could certainly make an argument that he was number 4 on that list.
Both goals tonight happened because Morgan Riley lost his man. On the first one, the Lafreniere one, Morgan Riley is standing still, and Lafreniere just kind of sneaks in behind him and gets to the rebound first, and then because he has more momentum, is able to skate into open ice and take a wide open shot. The second one, on the 6-on-5, Morgan Riley is kind of in no man's land with 2 guys in front of the net. So I'm not going to blame him for covering the wrong guy. He just wasn't covering anyone on the play. He had his back turned to both players directly in front of the net. And, we've known that Morgan Riley's gap control has always been a concern. That's just part of who he is. I'm not going to harp on that. But he has been legitimately awful in his own end this season. Chris Tanev has been carrying that pair. And, for as much as Morgan Riley brings offensively, he has taken a noticeable step back defensively from already what was subpar defensive play. And I'm concerned. I'm very concerned about Morgan Riley right now.
Especially considering he's now making 7.5. Really quickly, since we were talking about goaltending, the comments from the post-game interviews are coming out. Mark Masters just tweeted out, Anthony Stolarz on Igor Shesterkin. We had numerous chances. You can see why he's going to be the highest paid goalie in the league. He came up big for them tonight, and hats off to him. So, our good goalie, tipping his hat to the other good goalie. And yeah, anyway, I just wanted to say that before we ran away. But I agree with you entirely, Zach. I think in years previous, Morgan Riley has shown that while he is able to produce offense, it's not necessarily as much offense as we would hope from the blue line. And the other side of that is that he's not the best defender. He's not even, I would say, a top 3 defender on the team in terms of actual defensive plays. He's more likely, like you said, to give up a good opportunity and be in the wrong position with the hopes of producing offense. And really came back to haunt us tonight. So I have to imagine that he is going to have lots of video to look at practice tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to the quality of the guys that they brought in, and also the relative lack of quality of the last couple of seasons on the back end. That all of a sudden, it feels like Morgan's maybe being a little bit exposed here, more so than in the past, and it's standing out more because Tanev, OEL, Jake McCabe, and whichever of Timmins, Liljegren, and Benoit is in the game, whichever one of them has been, showing that they how to play defense in the defensive zone. And aside from the goal last game, Riley has not really been where you want him to be. He's been moved off of the top power play unit. And while the second power play unit has certainly had some chances, we'll get into power play here in just a second. This was a guy who for years was quarterbacking that main power play unit, and people have talked about him for being in contention for Team Canada for the Four Nations Cup, for the Olympics, all that stuff, and you wonder how he would have looked surrounded by the best defenseman in Canada. If he might well have been the number 6 on that, and now you kind of wonder if he's even going to make that team. But let's get into the power play. After 2 power play goals last game, back to the goose egg, back to the big 0. At times, the first power play unit looked really great, and at times it looked the way it did earlier in the season. Lauren, you're shaking your head. How are you feeling about the power play after this interesting experiment tonight? Not even experiment, just interesting go about.
Well, like I said right before we went live, gentlemen, I took non-drowsy Benylin for this, and I might as well have been non-drowsy Benylin for how little offense that power play produced. Honestly, there was a really good, the first power play, Austin Matthews got an unbelievable shot that was saved by Shesterkin, but it just seemed like the plays were so messy tonight. I don't know how many awful pass decisions were made tonight. That third power play was maybe the worst I've seen it this season. It was so bad. The second power play that they had, they would literally, the first unit got like a minute and 40 seconds and they did nothing with it. It was just friggin' brutal. There was one really good opportunity on the Capo high stick that Shesterkin saved on John Tavares. But other than that, it was nothing to write home about. It was not good. Like, they talked the game against the Kings the other night, even though I was not able to be on the show. I did watch the game, even though I had all kinds of things happening. I watched the game, and it was so nice to see them get a couple. And the plays that they were able to score on was because, what have I been saying? They were not moving themselves as much as they were moving the puck. They were making quick, smart, like evasive passes that were getting good opportunities, and they were able to bank on them. And tonight, those passes were not there. And if they were there, they whiffed on them. And the few opportunities that they did have rebounds on, they couldn't bury them. And it was just a no good, very bad time. What do you think, Zach?
It's funny because this was a game where they actually fixed one problem that we've been yelling and screaming about for years. The zone entries were actually fantastic tonight. They were moving the puck with purpose. They were getting through the neutral zone with speed. And like the amount of times I saw someone skate into the zone with players behind him because they didn't drop the pass. Like, I was so amazed with what was happening. And then it just turned into nothing because they got the zone. And then it's like they exerted all of their mental stamina on getting the zone. And then even if they did maintain possession and set up, they were like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
They skipped that part in practice, I guess. But that is at least an improvement. So I'll take solace in that that was the number one area that we were concerned with. Now let's work on actually, moving the puck and trying to do things with the man advantage. Like, I don't know. What were your thoughts on the power play, Dominic?
Yeah, I agree. Like, there was a moment at the beginning of every power play where there was like a little bit of hope, or about 20 seconds into the power play where there's a little bit of hope because they weren't doing the same thing that they've been doing for 5 years and it stopped working. And okay, we're coming in and we're applying pressure and maybe there's going to be some opportunities. And then before long, we're right back where we are, the passing around and around and around and around, and then the puck's down the ice. And it felt like, for as much as there seems to be some improvement, and there definitely was improvements last game, old habits die hard, and this crew is stuck in their ways, and it may be time to shake things up and go with 2 more balanced units. Because I'll tell you, I thought the second power play unit, for as little time as they actually had on the ice, there was one of the power plays in particular, it felt like they had a better chance of scoring, and they were applying some real pressure. And then when the penalized player comes back, you have the second unit basically staying together, and they had another chance. They had another chance 5-on-5, and you're thinking, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe these guys need to be brought in to give the big guys a little kick in the ass. The second unit this year feels a little bit more like a threat than it has in the past. It is still kind of a band of misfits, but it feels like a more dangerous band of misfits. I do think Max Domi, Matthew Nyes, and Bobby McMahon together can theoretically make something happen. They haven't yet, but theoretically they could, and I hope they get to. But I also hope to see just mix in Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Willie in with all of those guys and see if something can work. Because again, we're 5 games in. It's not that big a deal yet, but it will be. We saw last year in April, we saw last year up against Boston, how big a deal this can be and will be when that time of year comes.
I got a question for you, boys.
All right.
So Mark Savard calls you, okay? He gets your number, and he's like, hi, what do you think I should do to fix the power play in this fantasy world? We've already changed the defenseman that's on it, and I think that was a very good decision. What other changes do you make?
In terms of personnel, or
Yeah,
like
in terms of
play
personnel,
stuff?
we all know that the double drop back was awful, and on the third power play, they tried to do it twice and it failed. Buggers.
I would say I'm willing to have more talent on power play 1, but I do Matthews and Nylander on their one-timer sides. I do Ekman Larson, I guess, at the point, because you don't really have a righty that you would put there. Marner behind the net and Matthew Nyes in front of the net. And you just let Austin Matthews run it. He's not going to run it to the same degree that Kucherov will run it, obviously. But if you give Austin Matthews, a pass option to William Nylander for a one-timer, a pass option to Mitch Marner down low, and a deflection option in front with Matthew Nyes, that opens up a lot more than just having him pick it up at the blue line and saying, okay, go shoot puck now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and we've seen how dangerous the top line is 5-on-5 of Matthews, Marner, and
there's
Nyes.
No excuse for Matthew Nyes to not be on power play 1 over John Tavares right now.
Yeah. I almost think you just put that together. You pick a fourth forward and you put him with OEL and you say, have at it, go for it. And then you figure something else out with Tavares on the second unit, or Nylander, whoever you don't choose to go with them there, because the top line is clicking so much. Why break it up? You want your most dangerous players out there on a power play. Clearly, the most dangerous line is Matthews, Marner, Nyes. So put them out on a power play. Give them Ekman Larson. And you know what? Maybe even you shake it up and you stick Willie and Tavares on the other power play unit, and you throw McMahon out there and you just see what he can do. Or you throw Domi out there if you want an extra sort of passing threat, if you want to see if that can work. But yeah, that's what I'd say to Mark Savard. But I would also probably just say to him, dude, do you make how much money? Why are you calling me? What's happening here?
Or I would actually ask, it's hypothetical.
Or I'd assume he's a robocall.
Just go with the bit, damn it. God.
I would ask him what he did in Calgary to justify being hired in Toronto.
Oh, damn.
Zach, that man has a family.
You could ask Brad Treliving the same thing, by the way.
Lauren, what would you do? Mark Savard calls
Tell me how
you
you really feel. Wow. Gee whiz. Yeah, I think the first power play, I think it's a good idea to have there. Like you said, Zach, there's no reason to not have Nyes on the first power play. I would actually try and split up. I would try and take like the big 4 and split them at least 2 and 2. So PP1, I would do OEL, Matthews, Domi, Nylander, Nyes. I think you have a couple really good passers and playmakers in Domi and Nylander with optional scoring from Nylander, obviously, and the Nyes in front of the net is great. And then the second power play, I would do Morgan Riley, Marner, in this scenario, Max Pacioretty is in it, and then John Tavares and McMahon, because again, if you have JT down in front of the net, McMahon is an option up by the faceoff dot. Patches is good around the net as well, and then obviously Mitch Marner is Mitch Marner. So I like the fact that they put OEL on the first line. I think that it does add another level of expectation in terms of, there might be an actual shot from the point coming, because let's be real here, kids. Morgan Rielly, while he can take a slap shot, he cannot take one on goal from distance. So I couldn't be happier with OEL being on the first line, and I think that it's more than likely that first line starts clicking. They just need to stop overthinking, man. They need to stop overpassing. There's still, the third power play tonight? How long did William Nylander stand there with the puck, sort of putting it over his blade?
Yeah.
Right by the faceoff dot. There was like probably 6 seconds where he was just doing this.
Yeah.
Right. And, that's fine, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Like you said, it's early, but, they're what? 2 for 15 at this point so far in the season or something silly. Like, it's just not been good enough. So I'm willing to try just about anything to make it work, because I'm not entirely confident that what has worked previously is going to work now. I think a lot of the other teams around the league have adjusted to it, and it's no longer a surprise or a threat as much as we want it to be.
Yeah.
You know what? That's funny that you say the previous thing, because you know what? I do want to revisit a previous idea of where, and you bring it up, where in the Babcock days, Matthews and Nylander ran one unit, and then you let Mitch Marner just run the second unit.
Yep.
Because the three of
They're
those,
both talented.
Okay, exactly. And look, Austin Matthews is obviously he's great with the puck on his stick, but he also can survive. He's also very good with the puck not on his stick. It's
Yes.
For you basketball fans, like Steph Curry, right? He's great at getting open, finding his way to open area. And William Nylander, very puck dominant player. So it works out when you have Nylander and you can let him fire it across to Matthews. They're incredibly good at that cross ice pass from Nylander to Matthews. And then, back in the day when Marner ran the power play with, the JVR, Bozak and Kadri, all that, Tavares absolutely fills that JVR role, right? So, and you can figure out ways to.
That's already would too.
Other guys going. Exactly. You have the personnel to run a similar philosophy. And look, was that ever the best power play in the world? No, but it was a hell of a lot better than what we have now. So I'd be very open to trying that.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that happens? It doesn't work. Okay, this one isn't working either. At least try it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Throw something else at the wall.
Yeah, what's the worst that can happen? They don't score in 4 out of 5 games. Come on, imagine that. What could happen there? What could that possibly go?
In this economy?
It's 2024 and we're still begging the Leafs to change.
Yeah. Well, maybe
that
this
tax
year.
isn't us asking the Leafs to change.
Maybe this year. Let's move in. Let's move into the third period here. And again, we'll remind everybody, if you're listening live and you want to get questions in, you're running out of time. Now's the time to do that. Throw them in the live chat. So we talked a lot about this game coming into this game. We talked a lot about it being kind of a litmus test, kind of the big first real challenge for the Leafs after easing into the season with some easier opponents. Obviously, did not go the way we wanted it to go. But we have another test coming up on Monday. The Tampa Bay Lightning are 2-time first-round opponent and very possibly first-round opponent this year. And just because we beat them in 2023 is no guarantee of beating them in 2025. What lessons would you take away from this game and specifically apply to Monday versus the Lightning? You're going up against another elite Russian goalie. You're going up against another team that has a lot of elite talent up front. Admittedly, they don't have Stamkos anymore, but I mean, you still got Nikita Kucherov. You can never count him out. And
who has been on a tear so far this season?
What was it? 7 goals he has already?
Yeah, he's ridiculous. He has something like almost 2 points in each game or something absurd. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you talked about Adam Fox.
They just lost to the Sens though. Wah wah.
All right,
sucks to suck.
Yeah, may not be that bad. But I mean, we talk about Adam Fox being a perennial Norris Trophy candidate. Lightning have Victor Hedman kind of in a similar position. Zach, let's go to you first. What's your lesson from tonight that you want to apply to Monday against Tampa?
Look, the Leafs, while they had a flawed game, they did a lot of good things, and part of that, you just gotta clean some of this these simple mistakes up, the simple miscommunications. Just get to the net, get the puck on net. We know that you can beat Vasilevsky from the point. You know you can get to some rebounds on there. Do what you did in 2023 and just go, literally just get the puck on the net, go to the net, clean up the garbage. You know that you could beat this guy. The Leafs, for some reason, have Vasilevsky's number over the years. It's a really weird kind of thing that's been developed because the Leafs are usually kings at getting goalied by everyone, but this is the one goalie they actually know how to solve. So just don't overthink it. It's simple and effective hockey. That's what Craig Berube is trying to do. Stop with this overpassing. Stop with all the cute stuff. Let's leave that behind and just keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Lauren, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Nikita Kucherov is on an absolute tear this year. The gap control from Morgan Riley will not be acceptable on Nikita Kucherov if they are paired up together. You need to staple Chris Tanev and his 1.5 knees to Nikita Kucherov and do everything that you can to make him regret ever coming to the city. In terms of what else I think they need to do, obviously, they need to be better on the power play, man. They got 3 opportunities tonight and couldn't capitalize on any of them. And other teams in the league don't seem to have that problem. I don't know what is in the water here or what's in their Gatorade that's making them not be able to make the power play work. But if you want to beat Tampa, you need to get in Vasilevsky's guys. You need to go back to more of the way that they played against the Kings. One of the amazing things on Wednesday's game was how much they were in the goalie's eye line and how many screens they were able to get. That William Nylander goal is 100% a result of the screen from Mitch Marner, and a great play. They need to make more plays like that. While obviously the mess in front of the net is important, you got to bury them, and you got to hope that the puck luck is a bit better, I think, on Monday than it was tonight. It just seemed like tonight they had a bunch of really good opportunities, and the rubber wasn't meeting the road tonight, unfortunately. So got to hope for that.
Yeah.
What about you, Dom?
It is a little bit of a, kind of just got to hope you're a little bit luckier. Because they could have won this game. They really, really could have.
It was winnable for sure.
Yeah. And it didn't feel hopeless until the empty netters started going in. And right into the third, you're watching it going, I'm leaving space in my notebook for overtime. I'm thinking like we're going to need extra time to solve this. There's still an opportunity here for this team to come back, and not just come back, but win it. And they weren't able to do it tonight. They didn't get the bounces. They didn't get the puck luck. So you kind of have to almost not forget about this one, but just they need to remind themselves that they could have won this one. It was there. And so all they have to do is keep doing the things they were doing and tighten up in a few other places. I'm assuming Stolarz is getting the start again. I can't imagine you put Hildeby in to face the Lightning. I feel like he's earmarked for Tuesday against Columbus. But you got to put Stolarz back in there. We saw the rebounds were a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more frantic. Let's maybe get in there and try and help him out on that stuff, because that is ultimately what killed you in this one before the empty netters again.
Yep.
Again, that's the ultimate caveat before the empty netters. So tighten up in the defensive zone and hope for better puck luck in the offensive zone.
Real quick, we got a couple questions from Luke in the chat, who's been great in following the streams this year. He said, who do you start against Tampa? If Joseph Woll is healthy, do you start him against Tampa, or do you wait a night and give him Columbus?
God, let's just kill the man. Let's just kill the man and put him in.
He has been the best Leafs goalie against elite teams over the last few years, man.
He has.
Stop! He's already dead.
Yeah, he has, but let's let him.
But if
the season a little
that's
bit.
the game you want him to come back
hold on.
to?
Yeah.
Let me reframe this. If Stolarz is not quite 100%, if he's battling an ankle or knee, whatever it is, like, do you want to give him a rest, or do you just play him knowing that it's a tough game for Woll to come back to?
I mean, if you really feel like Stolarz is going to hurt himself, then I think you flip a coin. Like you're really in that place where I think unless he is hurt and he would be playing through something, there's no need to play through anything this early in the season. In that scenario, if Woll is ready, you put him in there. Any other scenario, you're putting Stolarz in there. He has earned this opportunity with his play through the first 4 games that he's been in this season. I think you give him that chance to go up against Tampa again, another litmus test for this team, And then Tuesday, you're starting either Wool as his, here you go, here's your first game of the year, or you're giving Hildeby another go saying, have at it, kid. Enjoy it because you're probably heading back to the Marlies after this one. Lauren, you feel
I'm
the
inclined
same
to
way?
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that obviously it was really, 11 minutes to go in the first period, and Stolar's like they blow a whistle when it looks like when he was undoing his pad, I was like, oh god, he's being helped off the ice.
Yeah.
And I was already worried about Hill to be coming in. He was very good in the one game that he did play so far this season, but that's a tough welcome home to Joseph Woll if that's where you feed him to the fish. I mean, you gotta play against good teams in this league, right? If it's not Tampa, it's Boston. If it's not Boston, it's Florida. If it's not Florida, it's the Vancouver Canucks apparently, and the Calgary Flames that are both doing very well so far, right? There are no easy teams, but I think if he's coming back from an injury, I would if possible, I would start Anthony Stolarz. But if there is a possibility that he's hurt and that you don't want him to further that injury, call the beast. I think Joseph Woll is still very young. While he's very mentally stable, he doesn't seem to be super impacted by tough games that he has. That's a tough first outing back after injury. I think Hildeby has played more recently, and I think in order I would do like Stolarz, Hildeby, and Woll. I wouldn't want to start Woll. The guy that we are hoping comes back and is as good as we know him to be. I think that's a big ask on his first game back after injury. What do you think, Zach?
I agree. I think I would rather, like, if there's any inclination that Stolarz isn't 100%, you put Hildeby in.
Yes.
Like, again, we talk about it's like what, game 6 of the regular season. Like, guys, I don't care who you could be playing. Tampa Bay, you could be playing Boston, you could be playing the suddenly terrible Nashville Predators. I don't care. Just play the healthy guy. It's not worth risking injury over a game this early in the season. So I'd be fine giving Hildeby that game.
Yeah, I agree.
We're obviously right.
Yeah, of course. Let's move into the overtime period here. Any parting thoughts on this game? Anything that we haven't touched on? Any sort of things that you're holding on to? Maybe sparks of hope that we're holding on to going into Monday against Tampa. Zach, you look like you've got something.
Well, you know what? This is a great tie-in because Luke has another question in the chat. Last season, Lauren once said that she had to hold her breath for about 90 seconds after every goal because they'd give up one straight away so often. Have you felt that way so far this season?
No, thankfully. I think part of that is the noticeable improvement in goaltending. I also think part of that is the fact that the Leafs so far in terms of transition when they get the puck, there is far less like farting around in their own end before trying to move it up. They're turning the puck over quickly, and when they get it, they're moving the puck up the ice quickly. And for the most part, they're getting opportunities, even right after power plays and stuff where they don't produce. A lot of times they're continuing that energy. And even tonight, like when the other team scored, I mean, in the first period, it felt more like, the energy swung the other way. But I don't find that I'm holding my breath the same way that I have in previous seasons. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't feel like, in general,
Impending doom?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like impending doom or like a cataclysm is around every single corner. It's why I think this game still felt really winnable going into the last few minutes. You felt like this team was playing well. They weren't doing the stupid things that they used to do, and you're like, okay, maybe this is going to work. Maybe this is going to go our way for a change. It didn't, but it felt like it could have, and which you couldn't say in the past. In the past, there was much more of a feeling of anything that can go wrong will, and it did. And this team feels just a little bit more solid. So even in a loss, I'm not feeling as hopeless as you might have given the same score, say, a year or two ago.
Definitely feels like they have less of a we will not go silently into that good night, right? It doesn't feel like they're giving up with such a whimper as they have in the last seasons. What do you think, Zach?
So I've got a couple reasons why I think that is the case, especially with the defensive side of that. Is there's two areas that I have always been very critical of the Leafs. One that I think probably all have a shared sentiment that the Leafs have not been great against opposing forechecks, and as a result, they tend to get hemmed in their own zone for a long, long time. I feel so far that has shown a little bit of improvement with both Tanev and Ekman Larson, who are veterans. They know how to handle a forecheck. They know how to disrupt things defensively. The other area, which is one that I have been so adamant that this is the number one area that has been costing the Leafs playoff series over the years, is defensive zone exits. It seems like such a simple thing, but the Leafs have been so bad at getting controlled zone exits. I think Dom and I think have talked about this at some point where anyone can trade for an Ilya Lyubushkin who can stay at home, will chip the puck off the glass and out every time, but not everyone can stop a play and in one motion make an effective pass to a teammate to exit the zone with possession and then transition to offense. And that's something both Tanev and OEL have done very, very well this year. And it's like it's twofold, right? They've been stopping the forecheck and then they've been quickly exiting the zone with possession, which is something that despite having a coach who was preaching puck possession at the time, they never quite got right under Sheldon Keefe. And so now that they have the personnel to do it, it's been a joy to watch because it's going to lead to more offense down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Tanev. If Stolar's getting back up, no problem, was the biggest relief of the night. The second biggest was seeing Tanev come back to the bench after blocking that shot because, that was, again, it felt like it was going to be one of those classic Leaf moments of, oh, we finally got the guy who can do the thing that we want, and now he's hurt 6 games into the year. And, if Chris Tanev, again, if we have a hypothetical where all the Leafs have my phone number, if Chris Tanev called me up and said, maybe you don't have to block every single shot in game 6, but I appreciate the hustle and the drive and the fact that he at, 37, 38 years old is still laying his body on the line like that in game 6. That is why he has been such an elite player for so long, is that he's willing to do the difficult things. And, if you do that in game 6 of the season, you'll probably do it in game 6 of a playoff game as well. So,
I think there was
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
No, I
biggest
just
moment
think
of relief.
Yeah, I think we all probably had a oh no moment with 1:43 to go in the second period. And then to start the third period, he's not on the bench, and then like 2 minutes into the second or the third period, he walks from the room onto the bench, and we all went, "Oh, thank you." It's bad that like he goes off at the end of the second period, and the entire third, like between the second and third, the second intermission, all I could think was, well, I guess Timothy Liljegren will live to fight another day, right? And I was immediately like into doom and gloom, and so for him to come back, I was very glad. So I definitely agree. It looked like it was probably just like a really bad stinger. I mean, taking a puck off the edge of your knee like that would hurt something fierce. So, like you said, maybe not in game 6 of the regular season, but if you do it in game 6 of the playoffs, by all means. So please stay healthy, Christopher.
Yeah, the unsung hero of the game, the camera operator who got the shot of Tanev coming back to the bench because we could all breathe a sigh of relief.
Absolutely.
But that, I think, is where we're going to leave things for Game Over Toronto tonight. Of course, we'll be back on Monday to talk about the Leafs versus the Tampa Bay Lightning and whatever insanity goes on in the rematch of 2 highly entertaining and very stressful playoff series from a couple years ago. But before we go, let's quickly plug some stuff. Zach, where can people keep up with you in between game overs?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at ZachPayne41, on YouTube at ZachPayne41, and if you care to follow my Instagram, I'm not very active, but it's _Zach.Payne. Also follow the Game Over Network, of course, Game Over Toronto, all of our shows, Hyperdrive Hockey, our flagship show on the network. And if any of you are football fans out there, I do have a football podcast for covering the Detroit Lions, the Payne and Drain Show. You can find that on social media somewhere, I'm sure, as well.
It's a good name for a podcast. Yes, follow at Game Over Network on Instagram, at Game Over NHL on Twitter/X. Lauren, thank you for powering through this one, toughing it out. Where can people keep up with you between game overs? Or is it games over? I'm not sure. Which one should we go with?
I mean, game over is what it's called, right? So, you can find me on Twitter at Lorne6. I'm not really on any other social medias. I'm sorry, but if you tweet me on Twitter, I will respond. I try and up my GIF game at all times. So please make sure you follow the streams. Make sure you follow these guys. Make sure you also check out the other shows, even if you've seen some of the game overs that we've had previously. All of the shows across all of the network, we have new people on all of them. So please go check them out. Obviously, when the head dubs happen, you'll be able to see some of the new people, but check the other streams out, check the other teams out. Even if you aren't a fan of, let's say, Calgary, you probably know a Calgary fan. So make sure you direct them over there. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on this channel as well. And if you feel like joining Patreon, please do. We have all kinds of levels with all kinds of stuff. We got brand new merch as well that I am actually planning on ordering this Friday, which is very exciting. Dom, where can everybody find you, my friend?
You can find me at DominicJ25 on Instagram and Twitter. More active on Instagram, but I'm trying to get back into Twitter, I guess. I should, promote things over there and, talk about stuff and join in on the interesting conversations and all that. So at DominicJ25 on both. And then if you like Star Wars, tune into the Star Wars Underworld podcast each and every week talking about the galaxy far, far away. But that is it. See everybody Monday. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah.